Good afternoon. My name is Jasmine Peterkin, and I'm here today to talk to you about the pros and cons of human cloning. Over the last few decades, there have been many technological and medical advances in our world. One of the most controversial of them all has to deal with cloning. As many of you may know about the sheep Dolly, who was the first cloned mammal ever. This has brought up other issues in the cloning of other mammals, like us, humans, which, of course, there's been much fighting over having to do with people's ethnical thoughts. But of course, when any issue, there's always bright things to it. I think one of the best uh, pros to human cloning is the fact that you'll be able to clone organs in people. There are millions of people who are laying in hospital beds waiting for one person who has something identical to them so they can have one of their organs so they can live. If we could take advantage of human cloning and take organs and clone them out of the actual people who are sick and make them in labs, then that would make them closer to getting better, to be able to walk around and be normal, live their normal lives again. Also, another advantage would be, here's a scenario. You have a couple, and for some reason, be it some type of sickness, their age, or some type of disorder, they cannot reproduce naturally. One way you could do it with that takes advantage of human cloning is that you could take the the DNA of the male and then the DNA of the female and put them together in a lab to be able to make a baby that way so they could still have children. But there are also bad things that could happen with human cloning. One thing that could happen is that someone might try and make a perfect individual. Made to order, you could even say. Anything to please them, which of course we don't want people to do. And also someone could, make clones of a person for an army to fight. They could create somebody, a human who's like strong, smart, and has all of those abilities, and make an army of them. They they could do that, and you don't want people making super armies. And also, you got to think about the narcissistic people who could clone themselves, because of course they think themselves better than anyone else, and could somehow, in their own mind, live forever. And then you have to think about the dirty part of cloning, the risks that could happen. Because if you take the Dolly experiment, it took a total of about 300 eggs just to make one cloned animal. So you think about it, for a sheep, and then there's humans, we're even more complex. It could take anywhere from 1,200 to 1,500 eggs to make one cloned person. And then you have to also think of the mother's risk in these experiments. In my closing, I would like to say that human cloning should be allowed, but only for reasons for asexual reproduction and for cloning people's organs. And if it is allowed, to heavily monitor it and not let anyone with just enough money to afford it to get their hands on it. Just certain groups of people, a very small percentage of the public, should be able to have access to this. Thank you for listening.